Okay, hi. So for this part of the video, we are going to look at parsing data. Okay, so now parsing data means that we want to actually correct some form of errors in the data set. Yeah. So we want to parse it. We want to put it. Uh, you can imagine parsing like putting a data into a box, and the box actually throws out uh, cleaned up data. So that idea is called parsing. There are many other types of parsers. There's string parsing, HTML parsing, yeah, HTML parsing, where a website actually extracts and tries to understand the meaning of the HTML tags and all the different parts of a HTML page, yeah. So that's this exists, a HTML parser. So another type of parsing that is very common is string parsing, where we actually try and play around with a long string to divide the string and so on. Now in this case we are also doing some form of string parsing here. It is just that in this case we are going to be using Excel mostly in this job sheet, and we're going to try and use Excel to help us with our parsing task. Now Excel offers certain functions. These functions namely that we are covering is going to be substitute. This is one function where we can substitute some parts of our data to another item if it meets the criteria. We can trim the data set. Okay, we can actually perform some form of a split in Excel. Yeah, and then this is going to be an independent task where you're going to use pandas and Python to do a split. Okay, so this is this one you'll be researching on your own, and the last part we're going to do concatenation and removing one more independent task to remove outliers. Okay, so for this part of the job sheet, you have 6 tasks to complete, and we are going to get the data set for the first few parts here. So if you follow along to this website, yeah, I've got my data in here. So let's click on view raw so we can get this CSV file out. So this is the raw data. Okay, and then let's save this data as, I'm going to save it on my desktop first, yeah. Okay, so it's saved on my desktop. So now we can see that this data set is here. Yeah, so it's saved here. Now let us open up this data set with Microsoft Excel. Okay, so we have opened up our data set with Microsoft Excel. Okay, now we are looking at this piece of data set here. Yeah, this data set is actually courtesy of Airbnb. Yeah, okay, Airbnb, and it's taken from Kaggle. It's just that I've embedded some errors here in this data set, which I embedded them in, such that you can spend some time learning how to clean up these data sets. Okay, so this data has got some incorrect data or typos and missing parts. Okay, so now before we even go start cleaning, we need to try and understand the data set. Okay, so there are quite a number of columns that we can see here. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 data sets. 16 columns, sorry. This data set has got 16 columns. Now, these columns have got a number of items here. They've got things like name, yeah, which I expand and it's very long, so I'm going to resize that, okay. So now every record has got an ID. So if we look at the first record, we see that this ID has got a name. They're trying to describe the house, clean and quiet, apartment, home by the park. Now it has got a host ID as well. Now the host ID is talking about who the user is. Yeah. So John is actually tagged to this ID. And then we can see the neighborhood. It's talking about Brooklyn. Yeah. Okay, and there is a spelling error here. Yeah. So we will look at that later. Now the internal neighborhood is uh, Kensington. They've given us a latitude and a longitude. The position, the geo position. We call this a coordinate, right? and then they tell the room type, the price, the minimum nights that is stayed, and the number of reviews, and when was the last review done, and the reviews per month, the review rate. Yeah. Okay, and then we have the last two, which is calculated host listing and availability. Okay, so these are some of the data descriptions that are given, data that is given in this data set, sorry. This is some of the data that is given in this data set. Okay, and we are just going to be focusing not on analyzing this, but rather performing some form of cleaning on this data set before we start actually using this data. So in the next part, we're going to start to look at a particular function known as substitute.